To safer travel.
I will rock this!
You will rock this! To know for sure that your child is in the right car seat for their age and size, visit safercar.gov/the right seat. Cool. Very cool. Brought to you by the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration and the Ad Council.
It's important to plan ahead for emergencies, like the storm. When it kicked in, we had a plan. We were able to get in touch with each other in no time.
Idea how to find each other.
The whole experience was
the most frightening 10 hours of my life.
If there's one piece of advice I'd offer other moms out there, it's to stay calm and keep to the plan.
Message.
Some parents plan ahead, some don't. Make sure you know where to find your family in an emergency. Start your plan at ready.gov. Brought to you by FEMA and the Ad Council.
Wherever we go, we are about to bring on the positive vibe. Wherever we go, we are gonna do what makes us feel right.
Hold on, you can hear you.
The train.
Might as well go ahead and say good morning.
Good morning. Good morning, everyone. Hey, welcome to the Soul Purpose Show. I'm here. I'm awake.
Oh my God, that's so funny.
I'm like, are we on Facebook Live?
Yes, it says live right
Can
here.
people hear us talking?
Yes, they can.
Okay, then maybe I should say good morning, everyone. Hey, listen.
That's funny.
Thank you for tuning into the Soul Purpose Show this morning. I'm fine. I'm okay. I just wanted to start this show off by saying this is the best and worst of the month of August. And you will see my wife and I adorned in beautiful African-inspired clothing. And the reason for that is, no, it's not Black History Month. It's not even Juneteenth month.
Well, every day of every year, all day is Black History Month, but go ahead.
Okay. Also, we haven't been radicalized or Pan-Africanized or whatever else. But we are doing this. This is our own personal homage to Chadwick Boseman, who lost his life to cancer yesterday. So we're going to honor him today. As we all know, Chadwick Boseman was the lead character in the Marvel movie Black Panther, which really just kind of set a whole new cultural phenomenon a couple years ago when it was released. And he lost his life to cancer. So we're going to get into that a little bit later in our best and worst segment. But that's the reason why we're dressed like this. As you can certainly see in the backdrop, it's still Vote 2020. Gosh, man, it's going to be a political show. We're going to touch on politics. We got a lot of stuff to hit on.
We do.
How was your week this week? Or how was your week?
Yeah, my month. There were highs and there were lows, both personally and highs personally, lows personally, and then highs just in terms of what we're going to be talking about in lows. It's okay. This week was a mixture of highs and lows.
It's a tough week.
It was a tough week.
Yeah.
It was a tough week.
We dealt with a lot, and we're going to get into all of it. But the reason why we do this show on our last show of the month is really just kind of to recap the month for our viewers. We want to start by thanking you for tuning in. We still get easily over 1,000 and sometimes over 2,000 and 3,000 views each week. We don't take that for granted. We know how important it is that we continue to provide this content. We like to talk about things that are of import to the African-American community, but told from our perspective. And so we think with everything going on, it is relevant. It is still relevant. And I would be remiss if I didn't start out by talking about the best thing that happened during the month of August is the selection of Senator Kamala Harris as Joe Biden, the former vice president. Oh, you got gear already?
I sure do. This says Kamala is my sorority sister. Biden Harris 2020. Continue.
So my wife is very pleased and very proud as a member of Alpha Kappa Alpha Sorority Incorporated, the oldest and the first Black Greek letter organization specifically for women, founded on the campus of
Howard University
in
January 15th, 1908.
Okay, all right. Well, then you somebody spent some time doing their study. So certainly that's got to be the best thing that happened. Best thing that happened this month. This was a highlight. That was a highlight.
Yeah, I would say that absolutely was a highlight of the month, and then everything that has surrounded the announcement that was made right before the DNC. We're probably going to dig more into that, but that probably August is not done yet, but in term from August 1st to August 31st, the selection and nomination of Kamala Harris as the Democratic vice presidential candidate was probably pretty high.
Yeah, that was absolutely the highlight of our month. I have the privilege of, and I just had to reflect back because I did spend a little bit of time at Howard. I said a little bit of time because I didn't go to class a whole lot while I was there, but we actually got to Howard at the same time. She lived in the female off-campus apartment homes right across the alleyway, literally from me while I was there. So I'm sure I probably passed her at some point in time, getting on the little student bus that takes you back and forth to class. Although I didn't take that bus back and forth to class.
Did you go to class?
I didn't go to class a whole lot while I was there because there were lots of distractions. But I am proud to say that I was there, and we are certainly proud. And we're going to unpack. We want to thank former House Representative Edna Rain and our sister in the struggle, Bamitra Salter Liggins, for their expert commentary. I'm sure we'll see them again before the election in November to continue to kind of unravel some of the political highlights. So, so let's get to the Democratic National Convention and the Republican National Convention. Some of the highlights from the DNC:
the inclusion, the diversity, the truth that was shared during the DNC.
The propaganda, the spin,
the lies. It was the RNC.
No. Listen. So we talked about this. The national conventions for either parties are pep rallies.
They are.
That's what they are. They're not really supposed to be journalistically accurate as much as they're supposed to be very biased and to sway popular opinion. And really, more than anything else, I don't think a lot of undecided people look at the conventions and say, okay, well, by virtue of the convention, now I know who I want to vote for.
Yeah. So for me, the DNC, I mean, all jokes aside, it definitely was inclusive, extremely diverse.
It was.
They spoke truth. Outline, people have been locked in their house since March. People have lost their jobs. 180,000 people have died at this point, probably more from COVID. Over 5 million people have been affected by COVID. So they spoke truth at the DNC. To me, one of the highlights of the DNC, a couple of highlights. The young man, the little boy, 13-year-old, who spoke right before Joe Biden, who had the stutter.
Yes.
To me, that probably was the most powerful moment, because when you juxtapose that against our current occupant, who is amoral, immoral, and picks at disabled people, to me, that was a highlight. Not aside from 45, I think, to me, just demonstrating and empowering this young man by showing some similarities. Joe Biden said, I too had a stutter,
right, and
you can overcome anything that you set your mind to do. This is what I did to overcome my stutter, and now I'm here, was super empowering. So that probably, that and the reciting, I think it was a singing of the national anthem or the reciting of the pledge at the very beginning, that showed all the diversity of the country. Those are probably two highlights of the convention for me.
It was absolutely a demonstration of what I think the party set out to do, which was paint itself as the true party of inclusion, welcoming to all walks of life. Now, let's look at the counterpoint, because I'm sure that what the Republicans would say is that from the time, I think the very, very first face you saw after the opening of the RNC, and admittedly, I did not watch all of it, but I didn't watch
any of it. They weren't gonna steal my joy and make my blood pressure rise.
But I think the first face that you saw was an African American female, and then there were several appearances throughout the RNC of people of color making the case for why our current president is not a racist.
Correct. They were props. They were props. They were pawns. They did not again function in truth or reality.
Yeah, there were a lot of misstatements.
There were lies. And on top of that, so while the DNC, there were some. So let me back up. the fact that both conventions, or at least the DNC convention, was virtual, right, was
Oh,
probably
yeah,
low,
for the most part.
because I, for one, as I mentioned on our previous show, I like the fanfare and all of the extraness that is the DNC convention. Conversely, the RNC acts like COVID is gone and that the coronavirus is not present. In fact, one of the speakers, Larry Kudlow, even talked about it in past tense.
Yeah, a lot of the speakers mentioned COVID as if it was in past tense to make the case that that our president did such a great job as soon as the COVID came out,
right,
that he dealt with it.
Right. So again, functioning in it, they are swimming and drowning in a sea and river and ocean of lies. So that's what the RNC was. But was more troubling for me is the fact that he did his campaign speech from the White House lawn, which is a house that we pay for. That's not his house. He is living there rent free while he's supposed to be doing his job. And he gets on the front lawn with Trump Pence signs everywhere and is utilizing not only the White House, but other federal lands for political purposes, which is a violation of the Hatch Act. And if it's not a violation of the Hatch Act, it comes real close. Because most government employees will tell you that they're told. I mean, I remember when I clerked, we were told that we could not take positions, political positions, because we were an extension of the federal government. So that to me was a low point. But again, it feeds into what people have continued to say, which is that this president doesn't care about the law. He thinks the law does not apply to him. He runs ramp shot over the Constitution and political norms. He is an authoritarian. He wants to be a dictator. He highlights and embraces dictators. So I didn't watch the RNC. I mean, the bits and snippets that I got from watching the summaries at the end were enough for me. I couldn't. God bless you for tolerating some of that.
I like to try to be objective. I like to try to be fair. I like to try to give platform to kind of both sides of the narrative. I will say that I can't really disagree with anything that you've said. I think, and I heard a really interesting commentary from a Republican strategist and any Republican as well, that talked about just how far this current president's message is away from the traditional conservative platform.
Because it's not conservative.
And it really, I mean, the one thing that conservatives pride themselves on is really just kind of that whole lack of government oversight, like the lack of government overbearance, because it really is supposed to be the party that recognizes the power of the free market, and that government is really just kind of there to allow the free market to do what it does best. And certainly the overreach of government in doing things like treating government for your own political purpose is absolutely authoritarian and is absolutely against the fundamental principles of true conservatism. And that is what I think is lost. And you know what's also funny is that have you heard about a kind of a growing contingency of Republicans, lifelong Republicans, that are now saying, regardless of the outcome of the election, they need to form another party.
Disaffected Republicans. Excuse me. They actually had a separate convention around the same time as the RNC. I forgot what it was called, but Michael Steele spoke. It was virtual, obviously, and some other people who have been very engaged and involved in the Republican Party and in conservative spaces for a long time attended this convention, and they talked about the true ideals of Republicans, kind of what real Republicans are and what they stand for, which is not this. The irony in what true conservatism is, and I've never been a conservative, but the irony of what true conservatives say that they are, lack of governmental overreach and allowing the free markets to do what they do, is that this president is doing the exact opposite. The exact opposite. He is super involved. The fact that you'll send national troops to a state to try to take control of the state, and the argument is that you're doing it because these protesters are threatening to harm federal lands, property. That's crap. That was BS.
Yeah.
So the irony is not lost on me. But all these people have been sucked in. They're drinking the Jim. Was it Jim Jones, the man that killed all the people with the Kool-Aid?
Jim Jones, going back to Guyana.
They're drinking all the Jim Jones Kool-Aid, and they have sucked it up and have digested it. And to me, the Kool-Aid that they're drinking, all it does is wash away all of the masks that they've been wearing for years, when fundamentally at their core, and I'm gonna say what it is, they're racist. So that's what it is.
That segment of the party, the white nationalist, quote unquote, patriots that are here to protect the country from being overrun by black and brown people and gay people and what have you, absolutely are, and I don't disagree with that at all. So another, but it's not.
It's not just white nationalists. There are people within that are supporting Trump. And if you're watching this, I'm talking to you. There are people who are supporting Donald Trump who would not consider themselves white nationalists, right? My problem with them is, and I say to you that you are still a racist. And if you are not a racist, then what you are is you are complicit in racism, in bigotry, and xenophobia, which still makes you a racist. You cannot support Donald Trump. I don't care how much money you got. I get the fact that you like the tax breaks that he provided to you. But at the end of the day, at the core, if you are still supporting this man with all of the vile, disgusting things he says about women, about minorities, about black and brown people, about the disabled people, then at your very core, you are either racist or complicit in racism, and therefore you are still a racist. Example, there were some white folks during slave times that didn't like slavery, but they were too afraid to speak out, right? That means you're complicit in the act and the institution of slavery, which to me means that you are supporting slavery. Silence is complicity. And so if you are, there was someone on MSNBC was doing an interview of some women in suburban women, we could probably gonna talk about that.
Absolutely.
The suburban women dog whistle that folks that folks in the RNC were talking about. They interviewed some suburban women, 3 white women and 1 black woman. And these 3 white women were saying they were still going to support him. Not shocking. 53% of the white women that voted in 2016 supported Donald Trump. But then the things that they said were, you all say we're racist and that, we feel bad about the things that are happening in the black community. We think it's terrible, the things that are happening in the black community, but we're still supporting Trump. Those two, to me, there's a disconnect there, because you can't on one end of the spectrum say we feel bad, we think it's wrong, and then you still support a man who embodies all the things that you're saying are problematic.
Yeah, and it's
that's why I said they're drinking the Jim Jones Kool-Aid.
And it's marketing, because what we also heard during the convention and the conventions, there was fear mongering, obviously, on both sides. One side says that if you vote for one side, that'll be the end of democracy, and the other side says if you vote for the other side, then it will be
the black and brown people gonna come into your neighborhood and take over,
and chaos and protest. So, but the real irony of that position around anarchy and violence and protesting is 2 things. One is that the only thing that will combat this anarchy is further government and federal government intervention, which is hypocritical. And secondly, all of the violence and the protesting that we're seeing now has come as a direct result. Anarchists, even people who wanted to overthrow the government, for the most part, have been quiet.
Yeah.
But for the opportunity to take to the streets and espouse anti-government rhetoric because of the reaction of the incidences that have happened. So the marketing brilliance behind what I saw during the evenings that I kind of tuned in is that the law and order president is going to continue to push law and order against what the other individual will do. But what we're seeing now is under the Trump presidency. That's where the violence is happening. This is Trump's America.
Somebody said it's cognitive dissonance. So you're just, I'm sorry, go ahead.
No. So what you're saying and what you're suggesting is that this is the reality that we live in today. And the reality that we live in today is that when you protest injustice, then the federal government will step in and try to tamp down that protest. And that, folks, is
anti-democratic.
is garden variety anti-democratic, and taking us back to Jim Crow, taking us back to
authoritarianism, it's dictatorships, communism, it's
that's
all
what
those
it
things.
is.
All those things that all these Republicans say they don't want is exactly what Donald Trump is demonstrating.
Yeah.
The fact that the Constitution says that you have a right to peacefully protest.
Correct.
Right? So those folks, be clear, the folks that are protesting the killing of unarmed Black men and the shooting someone, I'm sure we're going to talk about this too, shooting somebody in the back 7 times, the people that are protesting that peacefully have a constitutional right as citizens of this country to do so. Now, if the question is whether or not you believe that Black folks are entitled to citizenship and should have citizenship in this country, that's a separate conversation that I'm free and willing to have with anyone. But the notion that the federal government's that the fact that people are protesting in the streets is somehow a demonstration of a lack of law and order is a problem. Further, and there was an article that I posted on the Sole Purpose page, I'm a firm believer that the violence that is happening, by and large, are people who are intentionally inserting themselves, who are white nationalists, who are the militia folks, who are intentionally inserting themselves in these protests, creating confusion, creating violent situations to further this narrative that the protesters and the peaceful protesters and the people that are associated with the Black Lives Matter movement are anarchists and are destroying the cities and are burning them down, right? So let's be clear, there's a difference between peaceful protesters, which I think everybody should stand behind if you believe in democracy, because the Constitution institutes that says that we can do that, versus the folks that are, I believe, purposefully have been tasked to purposefully disrupt and create a different narrative surrounding these protests to feed into this I'm the law and order president. So that's,
it's not new. During peaceful protests, there have always been a faction of individuals that were there just to agitate. And I'll go a step further and say during protests, there has historically been a faction of individuals that are taking advantage of the protest for their own personal gain. In other words, if you're looting from stores generally, and you're taking things that don't really have any kitchen table value like food and milk and those things, then you're generally going to be taking those things for other means. So that's that. So listen, so August we also had our primary elections in some areas in some states. We want to point out that another high point during the month of August is a friend of ours.
I have two friends actually of mine.
Yep. So look, there were people who won, there were people who lost, there were districts gained and lost through the process. But one of the highlights clearly for the state of Florida is the first African American openly queer woman ran in the state house
District 7
in Pinellas County, and won that race. And in addition to the fact that we know her,
and she was the first woman she'll be the first woman
to represent that district. Okay, well, very interesting. So I wanted to point out before we go into break, I wanted to point out a couple of things that I think are interesting about that election. Number one it's an interesting commentary on the attitudes of Black people over the years about what openly gay means, right? Because Black people, by and large, have historically been very conservative in nature. We are God-fearing, church-going, believe in liberty and hard work and all of those things, just kind of by our nature. And as such, we've really always had kind of conflicting attitudes around gay and trans and those kind of folks, because that community, because it was always kind of a hush hush thing. We always knew that it existed. We always knew that it existed in our communities, but we just didn't talk openly about it. And if anyone did talk openly about it or come out of the closet to say run for political office or try to be a leader in the community or what have you, that voice has historically been tamped down. So I think that her election is historic, not just for the fact that she was a first, because that's always going to be historic, but I do think it speaks to the deeper attitudes of a community, which is predominantly Black community. She got support from predominantly Black folks, obviously Black and white and other, but it does kind of speak to, I think, an evolution, if you will, of the acceptance within our own community of people who may not necessarily look and think, or like we do. So
and that's probably a good topic for a show. We'll have to think more about that. But I will say that my thought process has grown with respect to that. I'm just full transparency. I grew up in a family very conservative but liberal at the same time. It's a real challenging dichotomy, but I know a lot of people have grown with that, because at the end of the day, you can't say that you love people, but I love everything but this particular part of you, which is the core of who you are.
Correct.
Right. And so I agree. I think it demonstrates how Black folks the Black community as a whole, I think, tends to empathize, embrace, love oppressed peoples, regardless of who you are. That's just kind of the nature of who we are. To me, it was disheartening and sad that the LGBTQ community within our own community was not as openly embraced. Some of that was because of church, because churches did not for a long time embrace, and still don't to some part, to a certain extent. So I do agree with that. I think I'm excited for her, irrespective of that. I think she's going to do a phenomenal, irrespective of the historic nature of her run and her candidacy and her win. I'm super excited about her being in Tallahassee to be able to do what she does, which is speak truth to power unapologetically.
Extremely hardworking.
I'm excited for you, Michelle.
Extremely conscientious.
Absolutely.
She absolutely represents on the front lines. She's
she
literally
does.
In the streets.
She is. So she's not one of these people that talks about it. She does it. And there were two other races too that I wanted to mention that are historic in nature, even though they have not won. They have another race coming up in November. Harold Pryor, who was on our show last week, if you all tuned in last week, we talked about the role of the Black prosecutor, which was a phenomenal show, and we're going to try to do a part 2 to that. But he's running for state attorney down in Broward County. And has he won the primary, but he has a general election in November. So you all make sure you all go. I think it's haroldpryor.com and check him out. Check out the panel discussion we had last week. He was great. And shoot that brother some money for his campaign. And then the other young lady. So if Harold wins, he'd be the first African American state attorney in the state of Florida elected.
Okay.
And then yes.
Okay.
Yep. Was you questioning that?
No, go ahead.
Okay. If I'm wrong, please somebody let me know, but I did my research and I didn't know that there was anybody else that had been Black. And then with respect to Monique over in Orlando, Osceola County, Orange County, Monique Worrell won her primary race. It's a very challenging primary race, and she won hers. And if she also has an opponent in November. And so if she wins, she'll be the second African-American woman to be elected to the state attorney role over in Osceola and Orange County. I think that's the 9th Circuit. And so Aramis Ayala, who was on our show last week, was the first. So I put that out there. That is an endorsement from me for both of those individuals, and so I would encourage folks.
The views of one host doesn't necessarily represent the views of the other host. No,
he supports them too.
I absolutely support.
So I am encouraging those who are watching and listening to the show to feed into both of those folks' campaigns, even if you don't live in the area. Go ahead and we don't live over in Orange and Osceola County, but I've given some money to Monique's campaign and plan to give some money to Harold's campaign as well. The only way our folks win is if they run, and then we support them not only with volunteering for their campaigns, but by planting seeds into their campaigns. So good luck, Harold and Monique, and as you all continue to campaign, and looking forward to a successful result in November.
Absolutely. So So we're going to move to a break here shortly, but just to recap, the month of August, and again, I really, when we started this concept, we kind of didn't want to be a quote unquote political show. I think it's going to be important though for us to keep these perspectives alive as we move into the November election because of everything that's at stake. I think which is fair. I did want to make one other point about one of my worst was a comment by Donald Trump Jr. around what this election is really about, and I think that's significant. Is from his words, a vote for one party is about church, work, and school, and a vote for the other party is about rioting, looting, and vandalism. And
you vote for his party, it's about never mind.
And that
y'all know he was high as a kite when he made that speech. That part I did see.
It seems like it's a little baked. I'm just saying, it may have been me, it may have been whatever. When we come back from break, we are going to get into the obvious conversation. Everyone is talking about the shooting of another unarmed Black man and the response from professional sports, which has been amazing.
Yeah,
I can't say enough about it, but we only have a half hour on the other side coming back. So please stay with us for part 2 of the Soul Purpose Show.
Wherever we go, we are gonna do what makes us feel right. I'm just getting off the train, haven't seen my minute work all day.
It may be hard to believe, but people just like you are already saving money. FeedThePig.org makes it easy. Their simple savings plan teaches you how to start saving without going overboard, so you don't need to start foraging wild berries.
I was skeptical, but these are actually pretty good.
You don't need to sell your soul to the devil.
$15 is the best I can do.
You just need FeedThePig.org. Don't get left behind. Get tips and tools at FeedThePig.org. Brought to you by the American Institute of CPAs and the Ad Council.
Welcome to Calvin's Barbershop.
You all got to see this.
I don't even want to know what you're looking at on that phone.
Well, you should. I was learning about the dangers of high blood pressure and that we need to get ours checked regularly. High blood pressure can increase the risk of heart attack or stroke, but this text program can help keep it at a healthy range. Just text Barbershop to 97779 to sign up.
I'll get right on it as soon as I'm done with this baby panda video.
Text Barbershop to 97779. A message from the American Heart Association and the Ad Council.
When it comes to reality radio, everyone is a star.
Shining star for you to see what your life can truly be.
On your smooth soul and R&B station.
On the World Wide Web.
In Touch Radio. In Touch Radio, where you can listen to a cruising flow of smooth soul and jazz. Today's R&B, a fun touch of hip-hop and gospel.
All my music on one station.
Giving you a buffet of music, news, and entertainment. We're In Touch Radio.
Wherever we go, we about to bring on the positive vibe.
All right, folks. Hey, we are.
Why would you talk? Why would you talk over our theme music?
I'm anxious to get started.
I know, but it's our theme music is beautiful. Why would you talk over that?
Sorry, for our lovely cousin who
she gave us the theme music. Why are you talking over it? Some people. Antonia Janae featuring Sean Woods. Yes. Wherever we go. I think that's the name of the song.
No, it's called
The Best of Us.
The Best of Us.
The Best of Us.
Yep.
That's our theme. Okay, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
So we had a full-fledged argument over our break, which is what we kind of have a tendency to do.
It was an argument. It was a deep, intense discussion.
In which case we disagree about everything. But I did talk about coming back for second half of our show. We're going to get into the Jacob Baker shooting, but I asked my lovely wife to really, because she's got you. How many get out to vote initiatives are you participating in right now? Because you haven't cooked in the last.
That is not. That is. Are you going to sit here really seriously on this show and tell that? Are you serious?
Me and Miles haven't eaten. The boy ain't had no bath. And
so what you all should know is that my husband embellishes a lot. Translation, he lies about this because that's not true. That is fundamental. I made salmon this week. I made hamburgers.
How many get out the vote initiatives?
Anyway, so as you all can see, we have vote 2 places. So I'm really only participating in one, and it's called Meet Us on the Block. One of my FAMU sisters, who is also my sorority sister, Kiafi Ramoyo, has created this Meet Us on the Block initiative. And the goal is to get folks, ensure that they're registered. You're registered to vote, check your registration status. Also ensure that you are, your census is complete and you filled out your census. September 30th, I think, is the deadline. But the goal is really to ensure people are registered. If you're not registered, to register, and to check your registration status so that you can ensure that you are registered before early registration ends. And in Florida, early registration ends, or registration ends October 5th. And so the purpose of Meet Us on the Block is each and every Friday, regardless of where you are, gather some friends, pick a block in your community to go stand on the block, encourage people to vote. We were outside yesterday of 7th and Grove in Ybor City with our signs. We even had a little sign holder asking people if they were registered, and if they registered, if they had a plan in terms of how they were going to vote, and then reminding people to fill out their census. So it's Meet Us on the Block, and I can put it on our Soul Purpose page, but every Friday we will be somewhere, hopefully back at 7th and Grove, because the other goal is to try to support Black-owned businesses, at least here locally.
I was going to ask you, so if you are a business owner, is the door still open to host?
Yeah, I mean, if you don't mind us standing right in front of your establishment or kind of the surrounding establishment. It's not that many of us, and we're not disruptive. And our goal is to try to get folks to kind of come in and support your business too. So we were at 7th and Grove yesterday for about 20 minutes, holding signs, passing out information, and then stayed for dinner and ate. So Meet Us on the Block. I'll post more information on the Soul Purpose Show, but you can do that. We're encouraging everybody around the country to do that, because we really want to ensure folks are registered and energize people so that we can get ready to vote.
I tell you what, this year is unprecedented. You hear it. We've been hearing that for the last several elections, right? It's unprecedented. You got to get out, and here's the importance of it. This is the first time in my life, and I've been alive for a long time, that I've actually seen our government turn on the post office, on the postal service. Like in order to get one party, political party advantage over the other party, which is just insane. And you talk about anarchy, you talk about overthrow of the government. You're now going to try to intentionally either pass policies around changing the postal service and stopping it from getting the funding that it needs, or you're just going to create enough confusion around the voting process that it discourages people from getting out to vote. Our clear message here is, do not be discouraged. Don't be fooled. Don't be intimidated. There is all kinds of awareness and education out there available. We're going to be doing it. It's all over the place. Get yourself educated around your right to vote and how you can vote safely, and do it on time.
Well, you know that's the goal. So the goal is twofold. Don't get it twisted. The whole reason DeJoy is there is because Republicans have been pushing for a long time. They want to privatize. They want to privatize the post office system. It's all about money for them. That's it. And so don't get it confused. Voting is, Trump can say what he wants to say. Trump votes absentee.
He votes absentee.
He votes absentee. So if you don't believe and you don't trust the mail-in system, then why would you select an absentee ballot, right? So the goal for the Republicans is to privatize the U.S. Postal Service. So that's first. And then DeJoy is not qualified on any level to do what he's doing, other than the fact that he goes into these private corporations and I guess fixes systems, in terms of the way things are run. But he didn't even know how much a postage stamp was or how much it was to mail a postcard. So he's going. And
he's reportedly an investor in companies that are set to take over.
Correct. So this is all a plan. Again, have a plan for voting, and we're going to talk more about that on a later show. But have a plan for voting.
And in the meantime, if you have questions about how to vote and about things that you may be confused about, please post them. Please post them directly to us. We will get them answered. You're not the only one that doesn't understand about the voting process, but we will absolutely educate you. All right, so everybody, I'm sure, would love to hear our take on the shooting of another unarmed Black man that happened this month. That actually happened this week, right? Earlier this week. So Jacob Baker was responding to a situation at his girlfriend's home.
That part I don't know.
There's a lot of it
doesn't matter to me.
Yeah, there's a lot of
know.
speculation swirling around kind of what led up to the actual shooting. But what we know for the most part is what we saw on television and on the video, which is that a man was present with the police, having a whatever with the police as he's walking away from the police. The police had guns drawn, pointed at him, obviously attempting to get him to stop or to do whatever. Excuse me. And as he opened the door of his car and leaned into his car, was shot in the back 7 times by the police. And the car was already
open. The car door was already open.
Okay.
He walked around the car door, was getting in his car, and they grabbed his shirt and they shot him in the back, point blank range, 7 times in front of his 3 boys.
Yeah.
And now he's paralyzed.
He's paralyzed from the waist down.
From the waist down.
He's still in stable condition, but still in intensive care.
Yep.
He's got damage, obviously, to his internal.
Severed his spinal cord. And so, what was the question at the beginning? How do I feel?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know.
That's a rhetorical question.
Yeah, I mean, okay. We want to get your perspective.
So here's kind of where I am. I didn't cry this time. I cried with George Floyd. I didn't cry this time. Now my feelings have turned into rage, right? And so I think lots of people share that same feeling. And then their game plan and their book, they followed a book quickly. So black man is shot, black man or woman is shot.
He's got misdemeanor warrants.
Then they put the cops on administrative leave. Don't arrest them, because I don't really understand how it is that you can justify someone who's not a threat, who's walking away.
Yeah.
You shoot him in the back 7 times. There's no justification for that.
But he had outstanding misdemeanor warrants.
Okay, well, they didn't find that out till later. So then you have the people on administrative leave, the cops, and then during that period of time, Ben Crump comes in, which I listen. You're doing the good work, Ben. I appreciate you. And other local folks on the ground come in, and during this time, the cops are trying to get their stories together, and then they come out and they dig something up that frankly is, to me, unrelated. I think they dug up that he had some outstanding warrant for a misdemeanor charge. They didn't know anything about they didn't stop him for the misdemeanor charge or the
misdemeanor charges. It's even been floated that maybe one of the officers were aware that he had the outstanding warrants at the time, but misdemeanor charges I'm not a lawyer. I'm just married to one.
I don't do criminal law. So.
Violence against another person is not a misdemeanor charge. So whatever his charges were not things to suggest that he was a violent criminal. So.
No, well, I don't know what the underlying charge was, but they didn't mention that at the first response. When the cops first started talking about it, they didn't mention anything about any outstanding warrants. So
always leak that.
That's called a dig up to challenge the viability of the fact that we're upset about the fact that you shot somebody in the back. So that's the playbook. So now, and then apparently they put handcuffs on the man who's paralyzed. So I'm not sure where he's going because he cannot walk. They put handcuffs on him in his hospital bed. Now they're removed, but the handcuffs were on him for about 3 days. So you asked me how I feel. I'm enraged at this point, but I have to figure out how to properly direct that rage such that it's constructive. And I know I posted on my personal Facebook page, brothers, I know y'all are tired. I know y'all are angry. I know you are, I don't even know if frightened is kind of what y'all are feeling because I'm not a man, but I know how I feel. And kind of what's the next step, because we can be enraged, we can be mad and angry and continue to protest. But the question really is, if you're sick and tired of being sick and tired, then what are we going to do? What is the action that we're going to take? I know we got to take a minute to let this all kind of settle, to kind of get our minds right, because we keep seeing it over and over again. But this is why when folks say defund the police, that's why they're saying what they're saying, because you have law enforcement agencies that take no account of, because the flip side to this is people were posting other videos of like this white guy attacked a cop in a liquor store, one shot. There's a white guy chasing a white cop around the car and threatening her and cussing her out and say, I will kill you. He wasn't shot.
I think it was a guy with a hatchet.
It was a guy with a hatchet. So there's so many instances of white folks who are actively engaged in violence towards law enforcement officers, and somehow they're able to stay alive, or they're not being shot, or they're tased, right? They're not maimed. And so at the end of the day, you ask me how I feel. I'm tired. I'm enraged. I'm over it. I'm over the conversations about, what should he have done? Listen, I get it. Unless you're putting a man under arrest, and criminal law, the criminal defense attorneys or criminal law attorneys, y'all correct me if I'm wrong. Unless you put me under arrest, I don't have to stay where you were asking me to stay. Yeah, you're not stopping me for any reason.
Let me address that real quick, because you made some allusion to how are Black men processing what we're seeing, and so I want to let you know that this is a part of what I'm processing. Sick and tired of being sick and tired, mad, enraged, all of that. It's not changing. We feel the same way. The other thing that I got to tell you though is, for us, we generally still think about survival. And I want to say this message to other young Black males. This is really about the talk, but it's also a message to Black females, Black moms, especially, about how important it is to have the talk. If you are a single mom, for example, and you don't have someone in your life that you feel comfortable can talk to your Black sons about the talk, call me, get a hold of me, and I'll have the conversation with them. It's probably going to sound something like this. You need to save yourself. You need to preserve your own life. I'm going to ask you, instead of thinking about the videos that you see of unarmed Black men being shot by the police, I want to take you back to junior high school or middle school. I'm showing my age, middle school and high school. And I want you to think about the kid that was geeky, nerdy, probably chubby, whatever. Nobody liked him. The only power he had was to kind of rat you out when you did things that you weren't supposed to be doing. He couldn't get girls. He wasn't good enough to go out and try out for the sports teams, etc. But some of those individuals, a lot of those individuals wound up empowering themselves by joining either the Police Explorer League or as soon as they graduated from high school, a lot of them went on to be police officers. Now, this is not Keith's anti-police officer, anti-law enforcement speech. I have friends that are law enforcement officers that are excellent people, that are tough-minded, mentally, emotionally, spiritually, the whole bit. But I want you to think about that individual for a minute, because I'm telling you, I'm seeing these videos over and over. And what really pisses me off is I'm seeing these now grown, barrel-shaped, donut-eating, scary people with guns that were probably trained for, 4, 5, 6 weeks, however long it took for them to get through the academy, and now they have a badge. Those are the same individuals, brothers, who are now having a confrontation with you in the streets, telling you to stop moving. And when I tell you that as demeaning, as hurtful, as anti my own rights to self affirm as a citizen as that is, all I'm suggesting to you is, don't rely on his expert police training or his ability to de-escalate a situation that he's now in the middle of a domestic dispute and he doesn't know how to deal with it, or her for that matter. Don't rely on their ability to rely on that training, to go back to that training and do the right thing. They were afraid of you when you took their lunch money in school. They are afraid of you now. They are still afraid of you. And so your hands on 10 and 2, roll down your windows. If he says stop moving, stop moving. I'm telling you to do that. I don't care what people are telling you your rights are as a citizen under the law. I'm telling you that these people are afraid of you. And until you get that in your mind, we'll fix the racism part. But unless you're prepared to be a martyr for this cause, please, please, please do not give them the benefit of the doubt.
But I push back one, and again, I'm not challenging anything that you're saying because I'm not a Black man. And so take heed to what you're saying. The problem that I have, though, is that even when you still do that, Philando Castile was complying. He did everything he was supposed to do. He stopped. He was calm. He told the guy, I have a concealed weapons permit and I have a gun on me. I'm not reaching for it. I'm here to give you my license. And he shot him anyway.
Correct.
And so
that's called murder.
Right. But the problem is Corey Jones in West Palm Beach was simply just changing his tire. And a cop came up, not uniformed, in a dark van. Corey absolutely was frightened, right? So I can imagine. So the challenge that I have, and I think the problem that most people have, is it does not appear that Black men or Black people can do anything, because regardless of what we do or say or have, even if we're unarmed, the weapon that we have that they use to justify shooting us, killing us, maiming us, is our body.
Correct.
It is our Black body. It is our skin.
Correct.
You are weaponizing our skin, right? And so that's the challenge. And so when the Republicans sit on their convention, don't mention Jacob Blake's name, don't acknowledge systemic racism, and Nikki Haley gets her tail up there and contradicts herself in one paragraph. Or one moment she's saying that her and her family were subjected to discrimination, and then the next minute says that America is not a racist country. Nikki Haley, I have news for you. I watched the March on Washington yesterday, and I saw mothers and families of dead Black bodies, dead Black girls, dead Black boys, who would tell you that that's not the truth. America has the ability not to be a racist country, but fundamentally, the systems that are in place in this country are racist to its core. You act like you don't know how this country was founded. The reason the South got the number of votes that it had is because they had to take 3/5 of Black folks that were enslaved in order to have the same representation in DC. So don't tell me that this country is not racist. It is. The foundation of this country in its very documents did not include Black and brown people. So that's crap. So that's why I'm so frustrated when the Republican Party gets up there and they parade these props of Black people up there speaking to try to justify and make white folks address white folks' sensibility and respectability, to tell them he's not racist because I'm his friend. That's crap. That's BS. And if you support Donald Trump, then you are a racist, and I'm calling you that. And if you get your feelings hurt, I don't care.
So, and here's I guess my point is, you based on what you're suggesting, I would be remiss if I did not use this platform to speak directly into these same young people who could potentially be victims of police overreach, if you will, and not being able to handle these situations correctly. You don't know what somebody's heart is. You don't know how they have been trained. You don't know what their attitudes are about your Black skin. All you can do, and there have been plenty of examples of young Black men, myself included, that were approached by police officers who were afraid of them. And I did everything in my power to try to make sure that they knew that I wasn't a threat to them. And I got my ticket, my speeding ticket or whatever it was, and I made it home safely. So my message to you clearly is, don't give benefit of the doubt. The talk is real. I feel your protest. I hear your protest, but the talk is real. And we have to continue to have that talk in the meantime until we get to the bottom of this. Now, I did want to get into, and I know that we don't have a whole lot of time.
I did the whole angry Black woman thing, but
don't apologize. I did want to get into the reaction to this shooting, which I think is key. I'm a sports fan, and I worked for years in professional sports, and so I have a pretty heavy perspective on this. The reaction from professional sports to how this is happening and how this happens and how it's been portrayed has just been phenomenal.
Yeah, I agree.
Phenomenal. We talk about athletes being, spoiled and, rich, and they make too much money and they don't understand. And do they really need to know how to use their platform? The Milwaukee Brewers in the bubble, because this is happening
Bucks or Brewers.
The Milwaukee Bucks, basketball team had a game scheduled with the Magic in the bubble, and actually did not come out of the locker room for that game because they were protesting. They wanted to see something happen. They wanted to see action. And it really was shocking the ripple effect throughout professional sports, including Major League Baseball.
Yeah.
Which the players decided to postpone the game that they were playing they laid a Black Lives Matter T-shirt across home plate.
Oh, I didn't know that.
As they walked off walked out of the dugout and decided not to play, and there's others. Kenny Smith, who's a former NBA player, was a full-time analyst on TNT, actually took his microphone off and walked off the set in solidarity. And I have this really kind of my point on top of point, my cherry on the ice cream. NHL players decided not to play, and I got to tell you, after working in the NHL for as many years as I did, and I saw very, very, very slow progress, very, very slow acknowledgement of social justice issues, I said, you know what, this thing is real.
Mm-hmm.
You know, this thing is real. Professional sports is really, the Doc Rivers comment, tear-filled comment resonated with me, that we have loved this country, that we have been loyal to this country. And the country has not loved us back, and it really is. It's literally time for us to change.
Yeah.
Make a comment. I wanted to talk to one of the highlights. Obviously, is Jason Wright's appointment as the president of the NFL team. But I wanted to kind of share.
So we have a couple minutes left, but I wanted to say that one of Doc Rivers' statement was powerful to me because it's true. Black folks love this country. So please understand, when I'm telling you and I'm saying that America is a racist country, as a person that loves this country, if I love my son, if my son does something that I think is fundamentally an error, I'm going to challenge him and I'm going to check him, right? Mm-hmm. I can love this country because I know people take clips and spin, Monica hates America. That's not true. I've traveled outside of this country, so I recognize what a blessing it is to be here. But that does not mean that this country cannot be better. It does not mean that this country is living up to its true ideals, that all men are created equal. It doesn't mean that. I can love this country and still challenge it and pray and hope and push it to be better. So when Doc Rivers said, why doesn't this country love us? That resonated with me. I had uncles who fought in Vietnam, right? I had a grandfather who fought in wars, right? So we have family members that served in the military so that we could have the rights to do the things that we're doing. Yet and still, when they returned from their military service, my grandfathers weren't able to go into any restroom or restaurant they wanted to. They still were subject to discrimination and subject to segregation. My uncles couldn't do the things. They couldn't vote when they came back, right? Or they could vote. They couldn't vote before they left. When they came back, they still were subject to discrimination and disparate treatment. And so Doc Rivers' statement is very key. Black folks love this country generally, not all, because there's some white folks that don't like this country just for kind of some of the things that it stands for. But by and large, I think Black folks love this country. They don't like the things that this country does. They don't love the systems in place to continue to oppress Black, brown, and poor people. So I just wanted to make that clear.
And I appreciate that. And I will tell you, I wanted to make sure, again, I wanted to leave a couple things with this audience. One, Jason Wright, you've heard a lot of angry Blackness today for obvious reasons. But there is hope. There is hope. Jason Wright happens to be a former player who was named first African-American president of an NFL team. He is a former player who left and retired to go get his MBA. At some point during his journey, he plays Alpha Phi Alpha fraternity, so he's my fraternity brother. But that's not what I'm shouting out. He has a plan to rebrand that franchise. Not only did they have a history of sexual harassment and other things, but they dropped their name, and he has a very definitive plan to get the community involved and engaged in helping to rebrand that team. So I would be remiss. This attire is in recognition of an outstanding young brother by the name of Chadwick Boseman, who lost his life. In honor of him, sisters, because I know we have a large female audience, please have your man go get himself checked, including myself. I need to get back to the doctor. Even during COVID, we need to get ourselves checked and keep ourselves checked because cancer we are still disproportionately affected.
Absolutely.
I hear our music playing, honey.
Yes, our music is playing. So thank you all for joining us today. Please like us. We're almost at 1,000 likes on Facebook. So please like our page, follow us on YouTube, Instagram, Facebook.
Soul Purpose Lounge today. We're taking a break.
So
we will see y'all.
We will see y'all next week. So y'all be blessed. Thanks so much.